Hello, friends. You're all welcome to today's LinkedIn Live session. And in today's session, we have curated a topic. Actually, this topic came as a question from a lot of you as a response to my earlier LinkedIn Live session. So I thought it appropriate that let's attack this question today. Now, the context of today's session is how do you make a buyer understand what you want to explain? Now, typically, what happens is the moment a seller is trying to talk to a buyer, the buyer has got a prejudice. The buyer has a preconceived notion in his mind that he's talking to a seller, and the seller obviously is going to talk very good about his products and services. It is not important to listen to the seller in complete respect. You must listen to the seller with a pinch of salt added to it. Now, whether this is a result of the past karmas of our predecessors in sales or whether this is the way the wiring of the mind of the buyer is done could be a discussion for a later topic. But what we need to discuss today is that the buyer's opening balance about the trust on a seller is low. The buyer starts with the notion that the seller is going to talk big about his product, and it is not important to agree to everything that the seller tells about his product or service. Now, this is the opening balance. But trust me, the opening balance doesn't remain the closing balance. It all depends on how you take your discussion forward, whether the buyer should start giving some kind of a credence, some kind of a trust, some kind of an accountability to what the seller has to say. Now, when we start this topic, that how do you make the buyer understand what you're trying to say? It is important for the seller to understand that the buyer is not interested in who you are. The buyer is not interested in what is great about you, your company, your product, your service. The buyer is not interested in your past accolades. The buyer is not interested in the awards that you have won in the past. The only thing the buyer is interested in is how you are going to change his life, how your product and service will add value to him, how your product and service will benefit the customer. So finally, the buyer is interested in himself or his own company. The buyer is least interested in the seller or the dialogues or the scripts that the seller is using. So, if you want to be heard by the buyer, please talk only about the benefits that you accrue to the buyer and not about your greatness or not about the great advantages of your product. Now, having said that, and when I say this, mostly salespeople say that, sir, I have got my future advantage benefit statement and I ensure that I explain the complete fab chart to the customer so that he knows all the features that we have and all the corresponding advantages that the customer can get out of me. Well, I would like to say that this is exactly what you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to be talking about the features and advantages of your product or service because the buyer is interested in your features and advantages only when he gets interested in the benefits that your features and advantages will accrue to the buyer. So, when you're fabbing with the customer, don't go FAB, don't go feature advantage benefit. Instead, start with benefits. Now, there is a twist here. If you really want to engage the buyer, if you really want the buyer to pay interest in what you're talking about, you must start with the financial benefits that your product and service is going to immediately accrue to the customer, to the buyer. So, if you say that my product is very good, the buyer is not interested to talk to you. But when you say that when you use my product, it is going to financially benefit you by around 8%, which translates to around 20 lakhs, the buyer is interested. So, my tip number one is explain the financial benefits of your offering to the buyer. Now, when you are saying that you're explaining the financial benefit of your offering to the buyer, and that's what I want to run on the screen, explain the financial benefits to the customer. Are you programmed? Have you programmed yourself to explain the financial benefit to the customer? I mean, let's take a few examples. So, a customer who's selling, let's say, white goods. Let's say you're selling a very high-end OLED television, right? Now, when you're saying a very high-end television worth 2.5 lakh rupees, you explain to the customer that, sir, this is going to give very sharp pictures. The images that you're going to see is going to be very sharp. Now the customer says, okay, fine, that's fine. I'm paying money for it. But the customer quietly asks himself, what is the financial benefit to me? And the seller keeps on saying that the images will be very sharp, the audio will be very good, the images will be sharp, even from an angle. Well, all these are not financial benefits to the customer, and hence the customer does not understand what you're trying to say. Instead of this, if you say this, that sir, when you're watching a program on OLED, your whole family can sit together because from all angles the images are great, and this creates a happiness quotient in the family, which actually contributes to the financial happiness of the family. Now, there's a difference, isn't it? Every script that we use, every script that we use on the table of the customer must show financial benefit to the buyer. Let me take an example of a raw material. Now, let's assume that I'm selling a raw material which is master batches, plastic master batches, which is used in the injection molding industry. Now, one thing is to say that my plastic master batch is of great quality and it will help you make very sturdy and strong chairs or through injection molding. Another thing is to say that because if you use my superior quality plastic master batches, the selling price of your chairs that you manufacture will increase by 10%. So today, if you manufacture a chair which is worth 500 rupees in the market, you will start getting 550 rupees for the chair. Since you make 20,000 chairs every day, so the incremental 50 rupees over 20,000 chairs will translate for a financial benefit of so many lakh of rupees for you. You see, the the essence of the seller is to try and convert every benefit that accrues to the customer in a financial benefit. If you do this, you will catch the ears of the buyer. The buyer will start understanding you. If you do not do this, the buyer will always treat your scripts with a pinch of salt. Some more examples you want to see? Okay, let me take some more examples. Let me jump over to another industry. Let's say pre-engineered buildings. So you must have seen pre-engineered buildings being used in godowns, warehouses, industrial sheds. Now there is a seller who keeps on telling that, oh, I use superior quality steel, a higher grade of steel in my pre-engineered buildings. Well, what is the financial benefit of using superior grade of steel? You see, now, when I say that, look, the steel that I use is of a higher yield strength, which is a feature, this results in me optimizing your pre engineered building in a better way. And I am able to reduce the tonnage of or rather the weight of the building that I make for you because I use superior grade steel. Now, this has some sense for the customer because he starts realizing, okay, if he can reduce the tonnage of my building, which means my overall cost of ownership of the building will come down, right? If I take some more example, let's say a real estate example, let's say I'm selling a residential flat to someone, and I say that my the flat that you're going to buy is very Vastu compliant. It has got state of the art amenities and blah, 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 blah. If I do not give the financial advantages of owning a flat in my property, I don't make a sale. So, how do I do this? Well, I tell to the customer that, sir, the kind of amenities we are using, let's take a simple example of a UPVC pipes. I'm using superior grade UPVC pipe. So, there is no way that your bathrooms will get into any kind of leakages, either from your side or from the flat above you, at least for the next 10 years' time. And you know, sir, this is a perennial problem in all multi-story buildings. That if the flat above you leaks, then both of you end up spending at least 2 to 3 lakh rupees so that you don't have a leaking bathroom. So, because of the superior amenities used in my building, you end up gaining at least 3 to 4 lakh rupees on account of leaking bathrooms every 5 years. That's a financial advantage. So, friends, all those of you who are listening to this program, talk to yourself, talk to your teams, and try and understand, have you empowered every member of your sales team to be able to translate the benefits from your product to a financial benefit which accrues to the customer, and program your salesperson to explain financial benefits to the customer. When you explain financial building explain benefits to the customer, you always build a very positive sales conversion, a conversation. And when you build a very positive sales conversation, the buyer is interested to listen to you. The buyer is interested to talk to you. He starts listening actively to you. If you do not do this, he does not start listening actively to you. Now, let me come to the next point. Once the buyer starts listening actively to you, it is very important that you do not decide what is right for the buyer. Arrive at the truth. Do not tell the truth. Do not decide for yourself. Do not pass a judgment. Do not straight away tell to the customer that, sir, I think you like this. Sir, I think you deserve this. Sir, I think you should buy this. No, this is not the right way to go about it, because everything that the seller will propose, the buyer will dispose. So, what should you do? You should jointly co create the selection. So, you should jointly arrive at the truth rather than telling the truth. Let me give an example. If you are talking to a customer and if you say that, sir, you should buy this particular furniture, it will suit you, your lifestyle, personality. This doesn't work. Instead of that, if you ask a few questions, so what is the dimension of the room where you're going to keep this furniture? So, what is the color combination in the room where you want to use this furniture? What is the movement in the room where you want to place this furniture, and so on and so forth. So when you start asking questions to the customer starts responding. You start the process of co-creating the truth with the buyer. The moment the process of co-creating the truth starts with the buyer, you know that you are in the sales process, and the buyer has actually started listening to you. The buyer has actually started understanding you. For those of you who do not understand these two things, if you just feel that by clip talking, or by rattling out the features of your product, or by exhibiting superior product knowledge, you are going to win the hearts of the customer. It doesn't happen like that, my friends. So please understand that if you want the buyer to understand, I'm using the word understand, forget about believing. If you want your buyer just to understand what you're trying to say, you still have to ensure that as a seller, you must be able to elucidate each and every financial benefit to the buyer. Once you have done this, you have to ask probing questions to co create the truth rather than telling the truth to the customer. I'm sure these 2 points will help you next time you're on the sales table trying to explain something to the customer. Take good care of yourself and always feel proud of the fact that you chose sales as your career, because there is no other career in this world which can give you name, fame, and money at the speed at which sales profession can give you. Take good care of yourself. Bye bye.